Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Jacqueline Flores, and for today's video I am doing story time on my labor and delivery video from when I was 15 and pregnant. So if you'd like to hear that story, then just keep on watching. Okay, so this story is basically a part 2 to my 15 and pregnant video. So if you haven't seen that video yet, I'll have it somewhere up in the suggestion box. I'll just have it linked down below in the description box so you guys can go watch it afterwards. So, my first time experiencing contractions was when I was about 8 months, and I was getting really bad back pains, like sharp back pains, and automatically I assumed that there were contractions because, you know, it was close to my due date, and you know, I just thought there were contractions. So I remember kind of getting a little bit scared because, you know, at 8 months your baby is still premature, and that is still counted as premature. And I was just so afraid because, you know, you hear a lot of these stories of premature babies like getting sicknesses and all that stuff. That was mainly my most worry, was that I wanted to have a healthy baby, and having a premature baby, you know, you're longer in the hospital with them, like, or they're like in the NICU for like a long time until they're able to like be strong on their own, basically. And anyways, so my husband had took me to the hospital, and when we got there, they had, you know, accepted me in because, you know, I told them I had contractions, so they had to accept me in. And basically they were just monitoring my contractions, and they did say I had a bit of contractions going on, but it wasn't to the point where a baby was about to come out. And so they just sent me home and they put me on bed rest. And what those were called were Braxton Hicks, and basically Braxton Hicks are fake contractions, where I guess they start getting your body used to what you're going to be going through. And so that's what I had experienced. And I mean, I was thankful that they were just Braxton Hicks, but, you know, they still kind of hurt a bit. That was my last time getting Braxton Hicks too. And so when I was 38 weeks, that's when I had my real contractions. The day I went to the hospital, I was exactly 38 weeks, and at that time you're already considered a full-term pregnancy. So I was already on the green, like on the good side of going into labor already. And I remember that day I was just getting the room nice and cleaned up, you know, kind of storing everything away. Like, I had gotten a lot of presents for my baby shower, like a lot, that even putting stuff away and storing them, like, I didn't have room for most of the stuff still. So I had, like, they were just kind of like stacked up nicely by the wall, or like, I don't know how I had to explain it, how I had, but I just had it like stacked up nicely. And that's what I was doing all day, and then just getting my hospital bag ready just in case. And I felt like, to me, there were like period cramps. That's kind of what I felt throughout the whole day. It wasn't until like 5 p.m. when I had told my husband, I was like, I've been having like back pains, like period cramp back pains all day. And at the time, his oldest sister was pregnant with me too. She was a month ahead of pregnancy, so she had already had her baby at this time, yeah. And I remember him calling her and telling her that I had these pains, like this pressure down my back the whole time. And like, you know, it was kind of hard for me to breathe. Not like hard to like I couldn't breathe, but like doing little small things, it took a lot of breath out of me to do it. And he had told her, well, he's like, well, why don't you guys just go to the hospital? I'm like, the worst they can tell you is just not yet and go back home. So that's what we did. We went to the hospital. After the hospital, we checked in, and I had to change into the gown and took me up into the monitors. and they were measuring my contractions and my heart rate and everything was going good. You know, it was like already getting ready for labor, because they did see my contractions together. So they checked how far along dilated I was, and I was at a 4, so they did let me stay after that. They called my doctor, and he came in like 2 hours later, but while I was waiting, I was just there waiting in the room with my husband watching TV, and he comes in and starts checking me down there and filling me up there. So by the time he was already there, I was already dilated at 5 centimeters, but my water hadn't break yet. So I remember him grabbing like a stick, I don't know how long it was, but it was long. And before, he had told me he was gonna break my water, but I didn't really understand like how he was gonna break my water, and he like just had pulled that out, and I'm like what the heck, like he's really gonna put that inside me? And you know, he did. And then after he broke my water, I just felt like a nasty gush come out of me, and it was like, I can't even say I felt like I peed myself, because it didn't even feel like that. I felt something like weird and like thick, and it was just gross. And I remember like they were doing some other stuff to me, like the nurses, and I just remember telling them, I was like, can I like get up, or like can we change whatever is underneath this house, like, because I feel really disgusting, and like it felt really gross being just like sitting on it while they were like doing all these other procedures on me, and having just like, no, I need to get this changed. So they did, and yeah, so that's how they broke my water. By this time I had notified my parents, my sister, and we notified his sisters too, that I was already going into labor. And my parents came right away. Well, my parents were gonna go camping for the weekend, and right before I called them, they were like in the car ready to go, and I told them, I was like, hey, I'm in the hospital already, like they said that this was it, like I'm gonna have a baby. So they kind of just like forgot what they had planned already, and then they just came straight to the hospital, and they were with me the whole time, like the whole time there. And his sisters, they just had told us that to notify them when the baby was here. But yeah, so I did get an epidural, because I think I would be able to survive naturally non-medicated labor, honestly. As much as I do regret it now, I'm kind of glad I did get the epidural, but I do regret it now, because I do get a lot of back pain from it, especially when the cold hits my back. That's when it hurts really bad, to like the point where I want to cry. But you know, I decided to have no pain during the labor instead having pain throughout my whole life. But yeah, smart choice, huh? I think I was about 7 centimeters dilated when they had asked me if I wanted an epidural, and I said yes, obviously, because I said I just had I got the epidural. After 8, I don't think you're allowed to get it anymore, just because you're so far into being dilated that they can't do it no more, like it won't work, something like that. I don't know what they were telling me, but after 8 centimeters, you're not allowed to get the epidural anymore. So while the nurse that was doing my epidural, so basically you have to hunch over on the side of the bed and have like your back like a cat. You know how a cat like hunches their back really hard, and you're not allowed to move at all, like not at all. And you know, keep in mind, I'm scared of needles, like needles that are this big. Any needles, I'm like terrified of them. And this needle was about this long. I'm not even playing with you guys, like it was huge. Even my husband saw it, and he was like shook that it was that long. And I remember just crying even before they had put the needle in me, just because of how terrified I am. And I tried not to move my best, and I didn't even move. I know for sure I didn't. And so as she was putting it in me, that shit hurts so bad. Like, I can still kind of feel the pain right now as I'm talking about it. Oh my god. So she inserts in me, right, all the way, and she pulls it out, and she's like, oh, I messed up. And then I was like, you know, in my head I was like, oh my god, but like, I'm gonna kill you, you know, right now. But she's like, well, I'm gonna have to reinsert it again. So she makes me, keep in mind that I'm already crying, like tears are dropping down me, and I'm already crying. And then she's like, okay, don't move. And then so I did that. I hunched back over again. I didn't move. And she enters it again. And then she fucking pulls it out one more time. And she's like, I messed up again. Like, I can't find your whatever you need to put the epidural through. And by this time, I was like, I wanted just to like knock her like this, like that, whatever. That's I was extra as hell. I just wanted to knock her out by this time. Like, literally, like, I was like crying so hard, like tears were coming down I was like crying. It wasn't even like I was tearing up. Like, I was crying, and there was like burgers coming down of my nose because how much I was crying, you know. And I was just so pissed off. And my husband was outside of the bed, and he was holding my hand. And I remember when they were reinserting again, they had to get another nurse and the doctor to do it because the dumbass didn't know how to put it in or how to find my whatever the fuck they were looking for. And so I was holding onto my husband's hand, and while they were inserting it again, I had hunched back over again, and I was just like squeezing his hand as hard as I can. Like, I think when I let go of his hand was like almost purple. Like, that's how hard I was squeezing it, because like that shit hurts so much. And for the BZ to be messing it up, like, hell no. Like, that shit hurt the most. And you know, like, it took like about 20 minutes for the epidural to kick in, and after that I didn't feel anything from my half stomach down, and it kind of like, it felt numb, but like it kind of felt like itchy too. Like, your whole stomach was itchy, and my whole stomach was itchy. Like, my legs were itchy too. I mean, but it felt good not feeling the contractions, because I was feeling some contractions, but like not to the point where like I was like crying and like saying, get this baby out of me already. And so it was nice having that. But like I said, like, I kind of do regret it now, because my back does hurt a lot every once in a while. And yeah, so I would really, if you're like pregnant, I would really do your research on the epidurals and stuff, and like kind of just I don't know how to explain it. I would just really do your research on the epidural, and like how the side effects you'll have after your pregnancies and stuff. Well, the side effect you'll have after your labor, just because I didn't know of the side effects, and I would have wished I knew, because maybe I wouldn't have gotten the epidural. And to me, like, how I see it now is like, I wish I would have felt the pain in that moment instead of getting the epidural, because you feel a pain for a little bit instead of having pain your lifetime. That's the way I see it. So after that, we just waited until it was ready to have this baby and to be dilated at 10 centimeters. So I had gotten to, like I said, I got into the hospital like at 5 p.m. They put the epidural, I want to say like around 8. And after that, it was just like a waiting game to see how long I was dilating. I was dilating very slow. I remember they did give me something for my contractions to be put together and for me to be able to get farther into dilating. And by that time, it was like, I don't even remember what time it was, but like once I reached 10 centimeters, it was already 4 in the morning, and the doctor came in again, and I was sleeping during that time. I mean, it's 4 a.m. I'm not gonna be awake. And so they woke me up, and they're like, oh, it's time to have this baby, and they're like, are you ready? And then like my heart started racing. I'm like, no. I was like freaking out at the last minute. First, it was just gonna be the nurses, the doctors, my husband, and my mom, because I wanted my mom in there too. And my sister would always be like, oh, I'm gonna be in the delivery room with you. And I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Like, I don't want my sister to be seeing my cooch, you know. And somehow the brat freaking snuck into the room, and she was in there the whole time. And so I was in the bed. The doctor was right here, like in front of my legs. The nurses were on the side of me. My mom was over here. My husband was on this side. And my sister was like on one side of my legs. So I was holding my mom's hand. And I was holding my husband's hand. A nurse was pushing one of my legs in. And my sister was pushing the other leg. And the doctor, you know, ready to grab the baby. And I don't know what the other nurse was doing. She's probably doing something else. I don't know. And I think this is so funny because they had asked my sister and the nurse to be pushing my legs in every time I was pushing, so that way it would help me push the baby out faster. And they're like, okay, every 3 I want you to push. So my sister was there like she was there like pushing, and she'd be like 1, 2, 3. And that was so funny. Like, I mean, at the time, because she was seeing her little sister, you know, about to have a baby. I think that's what got to her the most. And yeah, so she wasn't supposed to be in there, but somehow she got in there. And she was also there for my second one too, when I had my second baby. And I'm like, I tell you, you can't be in the delivery room and you still show up. You're like, okay, you know. During the process of delivery, it was hard, I'm not gonna lie. And I don't mean it like pushing wise, like it was very hard for me. Like, it was to a point where I kind of felt like I was dying. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, I'm not even just trying to say this to be exaggerating. Like, I legitimately felt like I was dying. It came to the point where a second while I was pushing, I got like super sweaty. Like I was sweating. I had like a very high fever, like a really, really high fever. And I was like sweating and sweating and sweating. And I remember I had like to take off like the blanket that was in the middle of me, and I had to pull it off because I couldn't no more. Like, I felt like I was like in a sauna room. And I was like, I can't do this right now. Like, the nurses, one of the nurses grabbed me like a cold towel, and she put it over my head while I was pushing, but that wasn't even working because like literally like not even like 10 seconds later, the little towelette would turn like hot, and that's how bad it was. So they stopped me from pushing a bit, and they gave me a pill, and literally that pill, like in like seconds, like took away my fever, but I felt like super cold, like cold. Like, I was shivering. Like, literally my teeth were like grinding together. You know, when you're cold, you're like that's how I was too. It was so weird. And like, I remember my mom telling me after I was done with the labor, she's like, I honestly thought you weren't gonna make it. And like, she kind of started crying too. She's like, I thought you were gonna like die having this baby. It was really hard for me to push. You know, it's my first child, and yeah, like they even had to cut me open a little bit just to have that extra space. But even then, like, I was still like having a hard time pushing. And I remember the doctor saying, he's like, if you don't he's like, I really need you to push, like, push as hard as you can. And he's like, if you don't push the way we need you to, then I'm gonna have to send you in for an emergency C-section. And I was just remembering like, oh hell no, like, I ain't not gonna get a C-section. And I remember my mom was like, come on, she's like, in Spanish, she's like, come on, mija, tú puedes, like, like, I don't want to cry, but she was basically like over here, like, you know, I don't know how to explain it. I'm just trying not to cry right now. Just pushing me and telling me that I can do this, that the baby was almost here and stuff, you know. And on the other side, my husband was over here, like, shitting his pants, like, not even saying nothing. I think that's what pissed me off the most about him, is that my mom was more of a support system than he was, because he was just there, like, fucking scared, too. And so, like, he wasn't really worth much in the delivery room. And, you know, after the delivery, like, I was kind of mad at him, but, like, I mean, I can understand, like, he's never seen something like this before, so he was, like, kind of shocked, too. I'm surprised he didn't faint, because, like, he was just there, like, the whole time. Like, I would turn when I was pushing or something, and he'd just be there, like, fucking scared. And, yeah. So, you know, when my baby came out, it was 4:16 in the morning of July 14th. And honestly, his first little cry that he ever gave after I was done pushing, I just remember, like, feeling so relieved that hearing his cry, like, I started crying, like, crying and crying and crying. Like, I was bawling my eyes out. And I don't know, it's just a mom thing, I guess, that everybody goes through, is that you just start crying. Even if you think that you're not gonna cry, you'll cry. Hearing your baby's first cry, that's when it hits you, like, oh shit, like, I'm a mom. Like, that baby just came out of my vagina. Like, I'm really a mom. Like, I don't know. It still amazes me, you know. So like I said, he was born at 4:16 in the morning on July 14th of 2014. And yeah, things were great. I was just happy to have him out already. I was happy that I didn't have to have a C-section. I was happy that I didn't die during delivery. So you could say I was in labor for, like, almost 12 hours. I want to say, yeah. After the delivery, how they had cut me more open, they had, the doctor had to stitch me up, and he gave me 4 stitches down there. Those were the most painful things ever. Like, not painful, but, like, they were, like, very uncomfortable, especially when sitting down. Like, I couldn't even sit down without having, like, a very fluffy pillow underneath me, because even sitting down on anything, like, really hurt down there. And they were dissolvable, so, like, after, like, a week or two, like, they were already dissolved when I took baths and stuff. So I was there from July 13th was when I was accepted. July 14th was when I had him, and July 15th is when I was released later on in the day. And July 15th is my birthday. So if you guys didn't know that, July 15th is my birthday. So I had him one day before my birthday, and yeah, like, it was not fun being in the hospital on the day of my birthday, but, you know, what can you do? And yeah, that's basically my labor and delivery story with my first one. My second one, it was much more easier, much more faster, since I was already, like, I've been through everything of that stuff. Like, the delivery was way faster. Like, it took me, like, what? I'm not even kidding, like, 4 minutes to push the baby out. While my first one, it took me about 15 minutes or longer to push him out. So it was much faster, much easier. The recovery was much easier. Like I said, how I had my first one when I was 38 weeks. I had my second one when I was 40 weeks. So he took more longer, and yeah. And with him, I actually did experience, my second one, I actually did experience a full, like, water break. I was at home. We were about ready to go to Pocatello, which was, if you don't know, if you're not from Idaho, this is like an hour and a half away from where I am. And we're just gonna spend the day up there and go to the mall and stuff. And I was getting ready, and I was about to change, so I got up, closed the door, locked it, you know, and I was about to go get my clothes. And as I feel like I kind of peed myself. Like, I didn't feel like an immediate gush, you know. I just felt like I kind of peed myself, and I kind of fell down, and I was like, what the heck? Like, how did I pee myself, but I didn't, like, you know when you feel like you're gonna pee, like, I didn't feel that. Like, I was like, what? So, you know, I took off my pants and my underwear, and then I grabbed some new clean ones, and then I started walking again, and the same thing happened again. And, like, you would think at this point you would be like, oh, you know, my water broke, but no, I still, for some reason, I didn't think that. And so at this point I was just like, what the heck? So I kind of just, like, took those off too, and then started walking around my room naked, like, I mean, naked waist down, and, like, I was dripping and dripping, like, not like to, like, gush, like I said, gushing, but, like, I was, like, dripping and dripping and dripping. And at this point I go to the door and call my husband. I'm like, hey, can you come in here? And he's like, what? And then I was like, I think my water broke. And so throughout my pregnancy, my second pregnancy, I kept on pranking my husband and telling him, oh, my water broke. Like, even in the middle of the night, like, it'd be at 2 in the morning, and then I'd be like, oh, my water broke. He's like, are you serious? Are you serious? And he'd get up so quick, and I was like, no, I'm just kidding. And I'd go back to sleep, and then he'd just be like, are you fucking kidding me, you know? So, like, at this point, he didn't even believe me. He's like, you're freaking lying to me. And I'm like, no, I swear to God. I was like, I think my water broke. And I'm like, look it. So, like, I would, like, be walking around, and he would even see, like, the drips coming down. And he's like, oh, shit. Like, he actually believed me afterwards. So, he goes and he goes and tells his mom, because at this time, we were living still with his parents. At this time, we were still living with his parents, and, you know, I was getting dressed. Well, he's like, before he went to go to his mom, he's like, okay, get dressed, and we'll go already, like, get dressed, get into comfy clothes, and we'll go to the hospital. So, while I was changing, he went to go tell his, parents that my water was breaking, and everybody in the house was kind of like, oh my gosh, you know. But, yeah, and we went to the hospital, and as I was walking inside the hospital, you know, I was, like, still dripping. Like, even in the car, like, I was, like, even, like, dripping my gush there, too. And, like, I remember the whole way going into the hospital, I was, like, kind of dripping and gushing and dripping and stuff. It came to the point where we were, like, just right around the corner of getting into the birth center that I was like, okay, my husband was next to me, and I was like, I can't move no more. I was like, I feel like I'm gonna be peeing a lot, like, so I kind of just stood there and stuff and waited, and, like, I couldn't even cross my legs. I was like, fuck, like, what am I gonna do? Like, there's a lot gonna come down. And then I remember telling him, I was like, look behind me and see if you see it really noticeable. And he looks, like, he's like this, and he's like, looks down too, and he was like, oh, well, you definitely marked your spot, because I left a fucking, like, a pee spot on the carpet. It was freaking carpet, guys. It was carpet, and my whole fucking water was just there. Like saying if I dropped this whole water right now on the carpet, it would look like that. And then it was, like, all down my legs and stuff, and oh my god. With him, I didn't have any complications at all. Yeah, I think I covered just about everything. I'm sorry if this video was kind of all over the place. If you guys have any more further questions, don't be afraid to leave them down below. I've gotten the weirdest ones. If you don't feel like posting them down below, I will have my social medias linked down below, where you can go onto my Instagram, DM me, or Snapchat me as well. I do get a lot of people DMing me and Snapchatting me about advices and stuff. So if you ever feel like you need advice on this kind of topics, never feel afraid to talk to me about it, because, you know, I've been there, and I remember being that person, nervous and stuff, and wishing I had someone to talk to about these things. So, like I said, I was like, never be afraid to just get something off your chest, or needing advice or something with it. I'll always be here, you know, that teen mom. I'll always be that teen mom. I'm not proud of it, but, you know, it's nothing that I'm ashamed of now, you know. Yeah, I don't know how else to explain that. So if you guys enjoyed this story time, then please just give it a huge thumbs up. Like I said, comment down below if you have any more further questions about this topic, and subscribe to my channel if you are not yet subscribed. I'm almost to 1,000 subscribers, and if you are consistent with my video, like I said on my last video, that once I reach 1K subscribers, I'm doing a mini giveaway. And yeah, so keep in tune for that. For once I reach 1K, tell your moms to subscribe, your cousins, your grandmas, your best friend, whoever, because the giveaway is coming soon. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on my next one. Bye.
Pero ahora estoy pa'l creepy, 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 creepy. También tenemos